expenditure strategies, timing, and opening dates, discussion, including historical perspective, game staff specialist Mike Cox and Tony Wasley.
I don't think those are there. Not till F or E.
This will be a topic that is discussed at the TAC committee. One of the committee members here is one of his things he wants to discuss, but I felt it better be seen by everybody instead of just the TAC committee, so I appreciate you guys coming today. There you go.
Big game staff biologist for Nevada Department of Wildlife. I'm going to try to condense decades and decades of changes and why we did some of these changes into about 20 minutes. And hopefully get a little bit better picture of where we've come and where we're at with the season structures that we have in existence today. Been quite a bit of evolution over time in accommodating sportsmen and our agency and the changes that have occurred out there on the landscape. Up through the 70s, it was quite a bit different than today. I just counted up, we had 59, this last year, 59 different hunts for deer rifle. So that's geographic, all different unit groups, early, late, splits. Up through the 70s, we only had 5 or 6 places that we could get a tag for. Not 59, but 5 or 6. So we had big groupings. Area 1, 2, and 3, 7 and 6, 11, 12, 10, stuff like that. So the landscape was definitely different. We had deer archery tags that were good statewide. You could hunt anywhere you wanted. You got an archery tag, you could go anywhere. So there's no limit in terms of the where you could use your archery tag. Much fewer pronghorn tags. They were scattered. Wherever we had pronghorn populations. We did have pronghorn archery hunts, and they were also good throughout the entire state except for the Sheldon. We did not have muzzleloader hunts, deer muzzleloader hunts. You could use a muzzleloader in any legal weapon hunt. We only had bighorn sheep down south. That was it. Pretty much Clark County and Southern Nye, that was it. We had 1 or 2 elk hunts. Most times just area 11, 5 or 10 tags. Occasionally we'd open and close the spring mountains for elk. Much different than today. 1976, we went to a full statewide controlled drawing for mule deer tags. And that certainly had an influence on our season structure in terms of the groupings of the units and the season lengths. The season lengths for the deer rifle were around 20 to 28 days historically. Yeah, this actually is the season lengths for up really up through the 80s even. Mule deer, we had quite a bit of variation there. Split seasons, but for the most part, I would say 70% of the hunts were 30 days, a month long, or even potentially longer. Some of the interstate hunts were long. Primitive weapons, archery also had a fairly lengthy season. And all of those seasons did start on a Saturday, and most ended on a Sunday. Seasons and quotas were set every year until 1998. So we put a lot of effort into looking at things every year. Since 1998, we set seasons every 2 years. We certainly look at the seasons in the off year if something happened, opportunities come up, but we felt like we didn't need to monkey with them as much. Spend our time doing other things. This compares from 1988 versus 2012, how many different hunts we had per species, including all the weapon class hunts. And it would have been a lot more disparity if I would have used an older year, but pronghorn, we certainly had a lot more hunts now than then. The big thing is the elk. Just a tremendous number of hunts out there that are overlaid, mostly with mule deer. Bighorn is doubled. But you can even see, even though we have more deer in 88, the complexity now of the season structure, and I'm not sure who caused what, the chicken or the egg, with the complexities and the split seasons and whatnot for deer, but we through the process of the game boards and the interest out there, the different expectations, we have a lot of carved up separate little hunts than we used to. I've been in my position since 1999, and over time I was seeing a lot of Band-Aids and duct tape and reinventing the wheel each time we met for season structure, and I really felt we could be a lot more efficient with our time and maybe fix some long-standing issues. And so in 2006, we brought a bunch of our biologists together, and we met one summer, and we had several follow-ups from that meeting. And we really wanted to do our best to self-evaluate ourselves and where we were and where we were going, and to try to identify all the things that come into play in setting seasons and providing a target for the game boards and use the commission to modify and to put that social spin on after we look at from a biological standpoint. So I'm just going to throw out several reasons, rationale that we had to think about that if we weren't thinking about them already, that we need to think more about in why we do what we do in terms of setting seasons. One of the things, and I'll get into it more, I've got a graph on calendar shift, but I always saw that we were reinventing the wheel every 2 years. Similar arguments of shifting 2 days this way, 2 days that way. We don't want to get too close to the rut, and with calendar shifts, you're constantly going back and kind of reinventing the wheel. So I thought that we could be much more efficient with that. With all those elk herds that we've built over time, to some extent, bighorn, but mostly the elk herds, we've been really tacking on seasons. Possibly not the best accounting of how they overlap with concurrent seasons, and so maybe it was best to just stand back, take a hard look at, those seasons really what we want, and are they meeting our objectives? Are they creating overlap issues with other hunters in the field, other weapon classes? With all these hunts, and even though we don't have as many total big game as other states, we probably have equal number of herds. And everyone's herd in their backyard. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000 elk or 200 elk. It's an important herd, and we do our best to get out and do our aerial surveys. And it was really starting to impinge on our ability to get good surveys, and impinging on hunters that might have an occasional flyover. And we were getting some feedback on that. Capture operations for sheep and pronghorn, we were beginning to run out of space in relation to the biology of the animals. We're pinched between the pregnancy of the ewes, so we don't want to push too much into the last semester of pregnancy, but yet we have hunters going out in the field, and we don't want to be on the heels of the opener of the hunts with our captures. We had herd population objectives, primarily with elk, that were really demanding that we knew when we could get hunters out, that they could be successful, where we wanted to be successful, and with other issues, whether they be on a state line, weather events, we were really being challenged to really make these seasons be successful for hunters. We had to recognize the timing of the rut. There's definitely a dichotomy out there. Some guys love to hunt in the rut. Some guys think it's just taboo. How dare you give yourself that advantage? So we're always having to watch out for that. Dispersal, which just bailing off the mountain or having 100-mile migrations. We felt like we had a pretty good handle on that, but there was definitely elk dispersals that we needed to have a better handle on. We didn't want to dump hunters out with a camel tag, and those elk are in another unit when the season comes. And got weather events. Some areas of the state have great access, others don't. When we get 6 to 10 inches on the ground, it's really hard to get some hunters into some of the herd areas. So we need to be cognizant of those issues and when we set seasons. We continue to hear about hunter congestion, changing expectations. It's been interesting just watching the changes in the social media and all of, you guys have lived it. Every time we set quotas, we have seen that, and sometimes we're not sure which way to go, but we definitely need to recognize those issues and those different interests. We did feel like we had a lot of neighboring elk hunts that were like 1 or 2 days off, really no reason for it. And again, it was just kind of some of those just tacking seasons on. It was causing confusion, whether it was game warden or the hunters themselves, and really felt that we could standardize some things and get rid of some inconsistencies. We've been kind of spoiled here in Nevada, where other states might have just, hey, look, it's a deer hunt, and we're just going to let everybody go out and hunt, or it's going to be a muzzleloader month, and everybody who wants to hunt with a muzzleloader can go after anything they want. But certainly quality of the experience in the field in Nevada has been one of the things that we've prided ourselves on over time. So we certainly have been continuing to try to reduce the overlap, and that is possibly one of the biggest challenges when the fall and the winter months have never increased. the calendar is what it is. And so we're trying to squeeze everybody in during that primo time, and we're trying to reduce the overlap of weapon classes and even different species. It definitely is a challenge. We recognize the diverse workforce out there. People work all days of the week, all hours of the day. And actually, when we get into what actually happened as a result of this season structure and what seasons came out of the 2007 commission meeting, we saw that an opening date, which may be different from a weekend, from a historic tradition, we actually were spreading hunting pressure out across a couple different time frames versus having just a single weekend opener. And clearly from our data that we collect that majority of the bucks are not harvested on opening day. And we never should forget about that fact. So one of the reasons I guess I'm up here is we've had some discussions since that 2007 commission meeting where we did set on a strategy to use the date as where we were going to have our opening hunts versus the traditional historic setting the opener on a Saturday on a weekend. And there are a lot of things that we need to keep in mind in the calendar shifts. One of the bigger issues is the once you hit that that leap year, you're gonna leap a full week on the calendar, and some of those months that you were having a standardized seasons and doing pretty well to accommodate the overlaps and the different hunts, watching out for the rut. Now all of a sudden you got an extra weekend to accommodate, and so now you're going to go back to the drawing board and say, well, what are we going to do with that extra week, or what are we going to do with the extra week we lost? And I've seen it a lot where we were worried about having our late rifle deer seasons going beyond November 5th. And so we'd have these big discussions, oh my God, it's going to be the 8th, or, well, it's only the 3rd this year, why can't we go to the 5th? Well, it's just the calendar was. And so I threw out the notion, that I think maybe if we could standardize this stuff and come up with something that's consistent from year to year, maybe we could reduce our efforts in that debating that from year to year. So what came out of that 2006 evaluation and subsequent to that? Like I said, we did begin to set seasons on a hard date, October 1st. Okay, that's where we want to have our cow elk rifle hunts. October 5th, that's where we wanted to start our deer seasons. So there was a little bit of a gap. Those are two big hunts in a big part of the eastern part of the state, and felt like we always needed to have a little space. And we just felt that having that consistency from year to year could prevent that calendar shift from disrupting some of that, and being able to better fit the seasons within that relative small window of time of about 2.5, 3 months, and not have to rehash every 2 years with losing a week or gaining a week. Are we going to get closer or further away from the rut, closer or further away from the weather, from the early warm temperatures, and just set it. We certainly established more split seasons, getting into the concern about hunter congestion, the different expectations that we were constantly trying to gauge quality versus quantity, experience versus the trophy animal. And so we definitely expanded a lot of our seasons into split seasons and spreading the pressure out. We used data, knowing that for example the deer seasons we were only looking at 5.5, average about 5.5 days in the field by most of our hunters, and we were just not utilizing those 30 days. Yes, guys who live in Eureka and have a place in Midas and outside of Winnemucca can just jump out there in their rig that evening and hunt, but we're always trying to accommodate the biggest number of hunters out there, and we really felt that a lot of guys, once they leave home, are out there for 5-6 days and then they're back home, and we could probably accommodate more people in the field with shorter seasons, and it gives us then other days where we can try to accommodate other hunts and try to reduce that overlap. Cow hunts, we really saw that with a single large quota, everybody out there opening day, they were kind of running into each other, and so we have seen the success of splitting up cow elk hunts. So that was a big thing we wanted to institute and continue to try, and kind of already talked about this, through the split season, the shorter seasons gives us the ability to better manage success rates and recognize the actual hunt days that are in the field and reduce those overlaps. So I wanted to show an exercise I did in some software I've been using for quite some time in trying to track and try to reduce overlaps. And so I went in and changed all of this. Is just a section of the state. This is western Elko County, kind of areas 6 and 7, and they kind of have similar seasons and demands placed on the herds and access to the hunters. And so I took the 2012 seasons and changed all the openers to a Saturday, and wanted to see what would happen. Basically, I said, look, I'm not going to allow any seasons to be shortened. We're just going to take, if the season was, so this was the, like for example, the archery season started on a Wednesday in 2012 for archery. Well, I just shifted to the next closest Saturday, and just keep doing that down the line, all the way through the last season, which is a cow elk rifle hunt, and then just trying to maintain the lack of overlaps that we had over time, looking at the bars of this Gantt chart. And probably no surprise, what ends up happening and it just adds up. It's a kind of a domino theory that you've got 3 days here, 2 days there, you don't get to use. You end up pushing everything down the calendar. So at first, you're moving things a few days forward, and then those push the others another week down the road because you want to maintain that lack of overlap. So by the end, for example, the cow elk rifle hunt was pushed 3 weeks later into December and mid-January. And you've got bull hunts being pushed. The late season was pushed 3 weeks later also. And for us, our guys out of Elko are pretty cognizant of, we start getting a lot of seasons into December, we start losing access, especially to the elk hunts, especially to the cow elk hunters, where we have to have that harvest. We have these population objectives. And so if we were to continue to maintain all these separate seasons, try to keep everybody separate, there's just, when you're forced to go on a Saturday, you lose the ability to manipulate the calendar as much as we were. And if, you know, I really don't want to start killing animals in July anymore. I don't think we need to be out in the field until August. You just run out of time. If you're going to use the same number of days for the hunts and maintain separation with weapon classes. So then we went back and said, okay, let's still have the Saturday openers. Everything's open on Saturday. But let's start carving away the ends of the seasons so that we can accommodate the next season, so we're not pushing everything back. And so we started out, you know, early August, but we just start carving some dates on the end, and so I ended up pretty much, like for example, the late cow season. Pretty much about when it is now. This is the late cow season, starts around Thanksgiving and ended up about first of the year. In this case, it was January 3rd. So it was about the same timing. And the consequences or results of that, you know, again, my tool was to shorten the seasons if we wanted to start on Saturday and keep everything in that August to November window. And in this case, the Western Norfolk County unit groups, we would go from having a total of 440 days of hunting season days to 406. And one of the issues that we ran into was that cow rifle hunt opener ended up being the same day as the deer rifle opener. There was just a point where if you backed, you know, to the earlier in the calendar, you were running into the muzzleloader elk hunts, and if you went any later, you were pushing the bull rifle hunts. So that was one of what I would consider an ugly consequence of, especially you're going to continue to see more cow elk tag quotas, especially in this area, and I think we want to continue to try to have some separation of the deer opener and the cow elk opener. So. So just pretty much, there has been a lot of change in a lot of different arenas, whether it's population goals, hunter expectations, hunting tactics, which I really didn't get into today, and just a lot of other little factors that all influence big game hunting. And we really felt that the current season structure that we have does the best to try to accommodate as many of these factors as possible, but it's certainly not perfect. So that's what I have today.
Any questions? Seeing none, I think it will be a TAC committee item.
And I'll be there to listen.
And I was not, I was on the commission the first time when this changed.
It was a hard day for you. I remember that day.
I wasn't in favor of it on that day. Looking back and looking at the hunter congestion issues and everything we have today, I'd have a hard time going back. I think we all contribute to hunter congestion. I think a total of 16 people helped my son get a bull. They weren't all there at one time, but you look at that, that's a lot of people in the field. So, alrighty. Move on to agenda item number D unless somebody has something.